My guest has been a worship arts pastor at a church of about 1,000 in Medicine Hat, Alberta for the last 3.5 years. She's a musician at large now, sponsored artist with Compassion Canada. Sheila Ann Smith has a passion to see people find wholeness in Christ. And as you look at her now, it's hard to believe that you were once given 3 days to live.
Yeah, it's true.
You were just 25 when you received a devastating diagnosis. Tell us about it and how you responded.
Well, what do you say when you hear those words that the doctor said, you might have cancer, you might have leukemia? And I said, well, what is you might, or you probably, what does that mean? He said, oh, we're 99% sure. I said, oh, that's pretty sure. Yeah, my husband and I just clung to each other, cried, and the first words that came to my heart were the words of Job, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. God had built that trust in my heart, or I'd run to him before for many things, and I just wanted to run to him again. I wanted to worship him with all my heart. I remember being in the hospital room for the first time by myself that night and just raising my hands up to the Lord and saying, I worship you, my Father, I love you, I want more of you. What do you do at that point? Wow. Just wanted to cling to the Lord. I think people have the choice. If they can get mad at God, why did you do this to me? How could you take away all the things that I should have had? Or you can choose to run to him, and I'm so glad I chose to run to him.
Your faith foundation, you were telling me just before we began that God had healed you of tendinitis. You were told you could never play piano, which you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And that had happened not too much ahead
A couple of years ahead before this. They told me I might have arthritis. They didn't know really what was going on, sent me for a bunch of tests, and I was in so much pain I couldn't really lift a fork or a toothbrush. And but God brought me through that, and he built my faith through that, and through other things as well that I went through. So
yeah,
God is amazing. Yeah.
Just 7 years old when really Jesus came into your family. And you were just an enthusiastic little person telling everybody about Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know that that always went well at school.
Yeah. Well, we knew about God all the time through my whole life. My parents, my mom was a nun actually before she got married.
You're kidding.
Yeah. And so we knew about God, and we had religion in our lives, and I didn't know there was more to know about God. I didn't even know you could have a friendship with him. I didn't know that Jesus could be so amazing and personal, but we found that out when I was 7, and it's been kind of a growing process to learn more about Jesus.
It's wonderful to see. Now, this story has some really difficult moments. You're here today whole. The medical reports, I'll say one doctor said, I can't see anything on this x-ray with my eye. You're a miracle. Yeah. But you had a moment of pain. The doctors had never seen anyone in such agony. Yeah. And I think at that point in this journey, they told your husband you'd be gone in 3 days.
Yeah, they didn't tell me that, which was probably good. It never really crossed my mind that I might die. I'm not sure why exactly, but I was just laying in a hospital bed on really high doses of morphine. If somebody even touched my bed, I could feel just the movement of it would shoot pain through my body, and on tubes and IV and stomach pump, and just they didn't know what was going on. They couldn't figure it out. Leukemia doesn't cause that much pain, and so the doctor said at this rate nobody can last in that much pain, that she has about 3 days to live, and God had a different idea.
Actually, did someone speak something at this time?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of people praying for me, but there was one man in particular, and you know, I don't even know his name. I don't know who he is, but he felt that God had told him that in 3 days I would start to get better. And that's actually what happened. In 3 days was the first time I sat up. And it was a process of getting my strength back. When you're in the hospital bed that long, your muscles atrophy and you get really weak. And so I had to learn to get stronger, and walked with a cane for a while. And people start talking very loud and very slowly.
They're not sure all that isn't working.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, this positioned you for a bone marrow transplant.
I still needed a bone marrow transplant, and the doctors told me it would be a 1 in 20,000 chance of finding a match, which is pretty small.
You're an only child.
That's right, yeah. And my parents were older, so they weren't able to have more
More
kids.
candidates.
Yeah.
But God.
God had an answer before I even knew I had a problem. There was a man who had signed up on the registry a few years before I needed a transplant, and he was a perfect match. And they will do a transplant with less than a perfect match, but I think, yeah, he's a perfect match.
Andy was
Amazing.
perfect, and you met him last May?
I was able to meet him in May for the first time. It was absolutely amazing. How do you say thank you to somebody who gives you such an amazing gift? How do you pay money? You can't buy a life. Is it worth $1 million? What is it worth? It's God's life and his gift to us. Jesus first gives us the gift of life. And then I was given the gift of life again by a bone marrow donor. I'm so thankful.
And you're about to, in just a moment, to sing your thank you to Andy for his wonderful gift to you. God's a bonus. You went from straight hair to stunning hair.
Really?
Curly,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's a blessing, for sure.
What did you learn through this, Sheila
Most
Ann?
of all, I learned to trust God, that he's good, that he loves us completely, to run to him with my whole heart at every moment, for the little things, for the big things, that he's going to walk me through. He's promised he'd never leave. He would never forsake us. And there was times that I didn't know or feel where God was. He seemed far away, but I knew his promise that he would never leave. I knew that he promised that, and when he promises, he will deliver. He keeps by us. He gives us his love, his presence, his grace, his strength, and I learned to cling to him. I'm glad that I didn't get angry and raise my fist against God, but I just cling to him with my heart.
Well, as promised, what's my song? What's my favorite song? I asked you the title because I'm going to read the words.
Never Alone.
Never Alone. I'm going to reshare those words. But you're going off to sing a big thank you to Andy, your bone marrow donor. And I want to say that this marvelous, uplifting CD is at our e-store. Here's the coordinates. We've got a couple here to tell you how to get Dreams Can Soar, Sheila Ann Smith.